And we're off. I'm very glad to see you again here at the UN, which I'd like to ask you whether you think the UN was helpful or unhelpful during the constitutional changes in Burundi. But go ahead. Tell me what you're doing here. Say your name. Say it all.
Well, Mr. Mitchell, my name is Manisha Lievin from Burundi. I know that you have met a couple.
Absolutely. This is the second time around, but let's.
Well, it's the UN is doing in Burundi. During the constitution, what they did, they literally did nothing. Because, I mean, how can you chair the constitution that was ratified by an illegitimate government? Mm-hmm. We still do not recognize the Burundian government, but we have an institution trying to force us into accepting a government that we, the Burundian, feels and believe that throughout the constitution it is illegitimate.
Antonio Guterres, I think since you were last here, he named as his envoy, as a part-time envoy, a guy called Michel Kafando, former ambassador from here, but then president for a while of Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. At least from here, I didn't see him do much. And when he came to the UN, to do his 6-month briefings, he never took any questions from the press. Are you aware of anything that he did other than provide support to Pierre Nkurunziza? And
well, there is nothing that has been done. If they could have been done something, then we could have seen a change in the country, a change in the human rights, a change of the government, really the legitimate government, a forcibly change enforced on Nkurunziza. So Kafando, I don't know, he's just one of the people who takes up jobs like anybody else around here. You know, that's how the world is run. But they are not really up there solving the problem. And,
what do you think? I mean, I've seen it. I don't know whether to believe it. I probably don't believe it, but I want to ask you. You would know more than me. Mm-hmm. I saw an announcement that Nkurunziza is saying that he will voluntarily not take his new powers under the Constitution all the way to 2034. What do you make of that?
We do not believe that, Mr. Matthew. I'm a Burundian, and I know Nkurunziza since when he was a rebel. Ahead of him. Yep. I didn't see him, because if I could see him, then I could have been dead by that time. Of course, he was just in the rebel groups. So the 2020 announcement that he made, it's a tricky announcement. It's first of all showing the world that he's just complying to them, trying to pull more money into the government, trying to pull more aids from other stakeholders. And I think that there is something that people are not really believing. I think that our country is going totally semi-communist or communist, because you take the way that he's trying to go when he pronounced that he is now the Ayatollah Khomeini of Burundi. And we see the supreme eternal leader. We see the world doing nothing. And that's because it is Burundi. That's because it is a small country. We have seen the OTAN taking care of countries that might just be under threat. They are of regime change or whatever, government systems. But we have a government system that is going into a change progressively. And we see people trying to support, saying, oh, it's all good. We're glad that he has announced that. We think that he is just working toward democracy. And I'm so shocked by those comments from people like the Russians, endorsing him, China. I don't think that they know the country better than we Burundians. And I don't think that they should be putting their own hands into matters. Because we don't have any problem with those people, Russians and Chinese, but they have to support someone who's rich, someone who's going to, to keep up the relationship, in a good way, not in a bad manner. I don't know if they're using him or not, but it seems, and my extend, concerns as well to the people like, the United States as well. I think they raised a statement saying that they were happy, but I just want to remind them that I know that this government, this administration is really working hard not to take rhetorics, but look into action. So I think Nikki Haley and the United Nations, we would ask him to intervene more, to forcibly make sure that this president is removed. We know, why should we always be pushed to allow no mercy or normalization of crimes of criminals into our governments without any any justice being held. So by saying that he can run, he can do what, or he's doing what, it's just showing us that, if he really leaves the power, they will be happy. But we won't be happy until when justice is served on him. And we have seen this administration, the Trump administration, doing such things with North Korea. They didn't use rhetorics, they didn't use the appeasement politics. But why are they using the appeasement politics with Nkurunziza? Why? Appeasement politics didn't work with Hitler. They all know that. But why Nkurunziza is such a small country? No, they need to move up and just show him that this is not right. This, what you're doing to your countrymen, is not what's supposed to be done, and you need to step down. Down forcibly. That's the solution.
And thanks a lot. Here at the UN, at least prior to my being thrown, for 2 days now, I've been outside of the UN. I can't even go into the noon briefing, ask a question about Burundi, Cameroon, any other question. But one of the questions that I asked prior to this banning was very nitty-gritty. It seems that the UNFPA, the UN Population Fund in Burundi, gave radio equipment to the wife of Nkurunziza to run a station. It seems like that the UN presence in countries, and I've seen the same thing in Cameroon, where they get too close to governments. They can't see the forest for the trees. Maybe they make money off it or not. I'm not sure. I don't know why you would give radio equipment to what seems to many to people to be I'm being very careful. You talked about Hitler. I don't even want to say dictator. An authoritarian tending government. They tried to say it was to promote safe sex, contraception. Is that your understanding?
No, that's not my understanding at all. And that's what we blame for such organization trying to come into aid of governments that are not respecting the human rights, government that do not respect the freedom of speech. They know better that this government had banned down the freedom of speech. They banned down the radio equipment to a government radio station. To the radio station. I think that we should be getting with the people in diaspora everywhere. There are radio stations that people don't have any funds to keep informing the Burundians about what's going on in the country.
I'm sorry to go beyond Burundi, but I say this because I was sitting here in the rain on this bench watching the noon briefing, and what I can say is that, and again, inner city press, they can like it or not like it. It's an independent media that goes in different directions at different times. I'm out inside the briefing. It's all state media. Morocco state media asking about why does the AU want to get into Western Sahara, France 24, which is run by the French government. It's down the line. So basically, the UN, I think that people perceive the UN as believing in the things that it says, and the charter and freedom of speech. When you actually look at it, they're very close to some of the most venal governments on earth.
That's right.
It's really every once in a while, if they feel the U.S. is watching them or they might lose funding, then they'll change their tune. But basically, Cameroon is a country that I've been covering since you came here. This guy, Nkurunziza is a young Paul Biya. Paul Biya has been in power 36 years. So I would say, actually, in comparing the two, wow. Not to say that what Nkurunziza is doing is not bad, but it's not like you can look to the UN to say 10 years is enough, or 20 years is enough. Because this guy, Antonio Guterres, went to Yaoundé, Cameroon, in the middle of a conflict where people's houses are being burned down, and he met with and smiled with and took a golden statue from a 36-year dictator. That guy, I will say, is 36, by definition, is a dictatorship.
Mr. Matthew, I think I should just first extend my courage to the South Cameroonians who are undergoing through hardship, good dictatorship. I would extend this to all Africans, especially young generation, trying to make sure that things change. And why we need change. It's such institutions, the United Nations, it's just other institutions that always try to enforce us into accepting leadership of dictatorships is normal. Like you say, Paul Biya been on power for more than 30 years. And we have here in Burundi a president who came from the rebel groups after maybe violating human rights and continuing violating human rights and still being honored as a president. And up to today, he's still doing the same thing. And we hear people working with him. We see the United Nations always working with him. So to me, I think that Africa needs to wake up. The young generation need to wake up if they can't solve our problem, then why dealing with them at all? Why dealing with them? They should know that they are not really saving our leaders. Yeah. They are saving Africans, all Africans. And we all Africans, most of the Africans say, no, this is not how the way it should be done. You just, keep nurturing these dynasties, these things that you're not doing in the West countries. You're not doing those stuff that are out there. Out there, there is always an awareness that's being raised. Everyone is going to stand up. But in Africa, it's like it's fine. They can just deal with their problem. As long as he stays, as long as he cooperates with us, it's okay. But we suffer. We the one who suffer, the young generation. Our mothers suffer. Everyone suffer because of this, I would say, this negative relationship between such big institutions and the countries led by dictators.
Again, even more nitty-gritty. What's interesting at the UN is that even of the UN Security Council, more than 60% of its agenda items are in Africa. But if you actually go to the briefing, you'll find that nobody asks any questions about it. Every question is about Syria, North Korea. So in a way, honestly, the UN seems to use these conflicts as a way to raise funds for itself, but they have no accountability on it at all. And I want, again, I'll beat my drum. I'll say, I submitted today in writing questions about Tanzania. Tanzania, they have this guy's even more recent than Nkurunziza. Magufuli is his name. They just arrested an opposition leader for writing on Facebook, what is the president anyway? ? They said this is an insult to the president, and the guy's locked up. I sent a question to the spokesman for Antonio Guterres. It's an easy one. It's a softball. What do you think of this? I don't know. You know why? Because I'm out here for insulting, quote unquote, insulting Antonio Guterres, for saying I think he's untransparent. I think to not do an audit of a corruption scandal is corrupt. It's my right to say it, and yet look. So how can we expect better of the UN when they themselves cannot do in their own way, like dictators in their own way? Now they can't. Did they kill anyone? No. I'll let you know. By the way, on July 3rd, so this is now the 6th. So on Tuesday of this week, they pulled me out of covering a budget meeting. They didn't even talk to me. They grabbed my laptop, which is now sitting in the rain. They grabbed my arm, and when I said, I'm a journalist, the guy twisted my arm. And then I came back 2 days later, and they said, no, you're banned. And they've told Fox News that wrote a story, they said it's because I was loud and belligerent. Well, I'm going to be belligerent if you twist my arm and try to throw me out of the UN when I know I have a right to be where I'm supposed to be. They said, well, you should have just left once they asked you. But the guy who asked me to leave is himself involved. I wrote a story about the guy. The guy's name is Dobbins. I know this is going from high to low, but it's of a piece. You can a place that coddles dictatorship and takes its own advantage of this type of abuse of the press is not going to do any better. For now, I don't know what the solution is. We have to demand better of the UN and not give it support for doing the things that it's doing now.
I think that the UN needs to meet. For us Africans, I think that we need a shadow representation. Because I don't think that our ambassador is representing me right here. He's doing what his boss wants, his dictator wants.
There's a famous picture of Guterres with Shinjiro sitting at a table. It might have been last General Assembly, smiling like crazy. It's on Shinjiro's it's his Facebook profile, saying, here I am. I'm with the Secretary General.
If they want us to keep sustaining this relationship, they should understand that all voices must be heard.
Okay, so now
not to hear the voices
I'm going to grill you with a question. Not grill you. I'm not saying that you're backing up the UN by being here, but I think the UN, because people come because there's a conference about sustainable development. So there might be a conference about youth. And from the UN's point of view, they don't. I hate to say it. They don't care what you think. As long as you come in, as long as they can say, "Wow, we had an event with 500 youths." I'm not saying that you should stay away. I'm just saying. I guess maybe it's easy for me to say. Right now, I'm in the park. It's better to say, to demand better than to be an extra in their show. Sometimes you go to something in the UN, they have a stakeout, a press encounter with Antonio Guterres, and there's no questions taken. So why did they tell you to go? You know why? So they can take a picture, and people that are not there can think he's answering questions. He's not answering questions. And it's the same thing with these conferences. So I want to ask you, this is the grilling question. The conference that you're here for, I'm not saying it's a scam. I don't know what it is. What is it? What's going to be accomplished? What is it? Tell me. Let's take a look into it.
We're going through the Human Rights Youth Summit. Youth for Human Rights International.
Oh, okay. Is that a group? It's a non-UN group that meets in the UN.
Group that meets in the UN. And what they're trying to do, pretty much, they called up all countries. I think they have a lot of countries represented in the building.
Interesting.
And
I like to cover
they all come in and just say about human rights and whatever. But I've been given any opportunity to speak. But if I would speak,
Why not? I don't understand. Why do you not have the opportunity?
Because maybe I didn't go through all the proceedings and whatever.
I would stand up. Maybe they'll call you loud and belligerent, but I'd say.
But what I'm saying here is that I really, applaud the work that the young ambassadors for human rights are doing. But I think it's more than what they are doing. Yeah. It's a passion. It's more demanding, just like a sacrifice. Right. You know, when you come here, like you say, it's like just complying with whatever that is on the paper. Just, we've been doing this, showing all pictures, reports and stuff. Right. But if they want to be more active, I think that they should come together and, spend sleepless nights, long walk like Mahatma Gandhi did, everything, something like that. Right. That would just raise their awareness.
It's become overly professionalized. Basically, people trying to get a job. And of course, definitely, people should be able to make a living doing the right thing. But if you turn it into like
me, I don't see any use of human rights when we have a dictatorship. How would you imply the human rights to a dictator? Yeah. It will never happen. Yep. It will never happen. I would encourage this summit to learn how to come up with ways that they can teach the youth maybe to use in order to tackle, dictators and stuff, because you don't tackle a dictator through maybe, saying that you distributed booklets and whatever about human rights. He doesn't really care. Yeah. Maybe he might just take them away from the kids and bend them down. Yeah. So we use these voices like you do. Right. This is how our dictators now get irritated. This is how this is what our people want to hear. Yeah. This is what human rights is.
That's why I'm happy to. There were some Southern Cameroonians that came here. I interviewed them. But my thing would be, I can't attend this. I would like to cover this meeting. I can't go into the UN. But what I notice a lot in these meetings is that they don't want to give the floor, or people don't think to actually not criticize the UN. But you're at the UN. They never get asked about their own problems. So it's always like, can the UN do something about X? And it's like, so they say, well, it was a great conference. Nobody criticized us. They wanted us to help, but they just don't understand that we have to work with governments. But there's basic things. For example, they send, it's going to sound terrible, the UN sends peacekeeping missions. People were saying they send the peacekeepers to Burundi. I said the same thing, but be aware, they sent peacekeepers to Haiti. This is where this guy comes from, Adrian. They sent peacekeepers to Haiti. They brought cholera. They killed 10,000 people. Right. They didn't pay one person. I'm not saying if there's a conflict and you need people to be protected, you don't want a peacekeeper, but UN peacekeeping can't be bringing cholera. That's right. Shouldn't be doing sexual abuse on children, and if it's done, these guys have to be punished. Do you know that nobody is ever punished? The worst thing that happens to them is they get sent back to their country, including Burundians that were in CAR. The case going on with Burundi, I've been here many times protesting. This is not my first time that you saw me here. Yep. I've been saying that they should stop funding the government. They're funding the dictatorship by Iliri, allowing him to use his peacekeepers. In Somalia, I said it many times. In Somalia and Sierra, what he does is send his own relatives, his own militia to get overpaid. And then, there's a lot of tricks going on in these payments and whatever. So, why would you just use someone who's already in trouble, who's not able to provide peace for his own people? Why would you extend him to go and provide peace into other people's land? It's not practical. It's not just making sense. What country has controlled UN peacekeeping for the last 22 years? But was that France? Or yes. So now you have the answer to your question. The penhole. It's the easiest way it's conducting foreign policy with other people's money. Right. That's I think the one kind of thing that maybe the administration here can see. That doesn't make any sense. If you want to be a colonialist, maybe it's your right, but you cannot be using public money. You know what I mean? It's incredible as a front. I heard at one point the Nkurunziza government had a difficulty buying grenades because there's now under the Arms Control Treaty, there's supposed to be due diligence. How could you give weapons to a government that's killing its own people? And do you know how they did it? They got the French head of peacekeeping to certify that these were needed in some peacekeeping missions, and they never went to the peacekeeping mission. They're getting thrown at people in bars. Up to now, we haven't had, my complaints is always since 2015, since when he started killing his own people, since when he broke the Arusha Agreement, we haven't seen any move toward banning the country from buying weapons. Right. We haven't seen any personal, personal embargo
to the president or to the. I mean, we're not saying that they should punish really the
no,
people.
No, but definitely
but
you can't.
We have a group of people.
We have
a group of people here abusing a large number of the people. So there should be ways of coming up of bans and stuff.
Yep.
There are experts here who can do that, but it's not really being done, and that's exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Okay, I actually, this has been going so well. I may end it just so I'm sure it doesn't freeze up. But I think, is there anything, final comments? The floor is yours. If they don't let you talk inside the UN, outside with Inner City Press, the floor is yours.
Inner City Press has been always like the voice of the voiceless, and we thank them, and we also like when we get the speech or whatever, it's not like about compliance. Mm-hmm. This is the human rights. And when you stand for human rights, you don't really bow down when people are being abused at home. I'm here for the people. I'm not here to get paid. Mm-hmm. So I should be able to speak whatever that I feel like speaking if I'm not abusing anybody. You understand?
I'm going to rotate this way so we get the building behind you.
If I'm not trying to abuse anybody, which I haven't done, which I'm not even planning to do, and I will never do that. So my last speech would be just like calling to the young activists in DRC, the Lucha group, in Cameroon, South Cameroon, in Mali, Tanzania as well.
Yeah, these guys are
we need to come up together. We know that we don't have tools behind us. Such big institutions do not want to support a big change. But will we leave the African land for the few and the big institution? No, it's our choice. That's our land, and we should protect it in sweat and in tears. That's what this country just came to celebrate, the 4th of July. So we feel like we need to do the same thing and be happy citizens of the world.
That's great. Thank you so much.